Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything, Coast to Coast, with your host, Buddy Sotelo Esquire, and the Poet Laureate, Evan Ginsberg, man of pen and paper, and author of one of the hottest books in professional wrestling that's out today on Amazon, according to Amazon. But we have a very special guest tonight, and that is Matt. Do you prefer you want me to go with your real name or Matt?
Just call me Matt Classic. That works, boss.
Matt
That's what
Classic, yes. So with the AIWF, correct?
Yes, sir. AIWF Wrestling is the largest global alliance in pro wrestling today, with over 150 promotions in 49 countries, and we've been in operation since 1992.
Wow, well, that's really fantastic. So, in fact, tell us more about AIWF and what your involvement is.
Yeah, well, I'm currently the executive director of the AIWF. I've been in that position about the past 15 years. We're, like I said, with large global alliance. We're kind of like how the real NWA used to be from 48 until it died in the 80s. But, we sanction championships around the world. We have championships in every continent right now. So, I mean, we're doing great. We got fighting world champions. And we got, like I said, events from a weekly basis to a monthly basis around the globe.
That's fantastic. Now, can you tell me how you got started? Just let's go all the way back and rewind everything back to the beginning. What got you involved in wrestling to begin with?
I mean, I was always a fan of pro wrestling. It's always something I enjoyed. But I actually got involved officially in the early 2000s with Mr. Chief J. Eagle. He ran APW in South Carolina for about 40 years. He still wrestles today, even though he's close to 70. But I officially completed my training in 2004, and I wrestled for a little bit, and then I took some time off, and then I got involved with the AIWF, and that's how I've become what I am today in the AIWF, I guess you could say.
And tell me who were influential wrestlers for you when you.
My favorite's Ric Flair. I'm from North Carolina, so I think everybody here loves Ric Flair, and obviously, I think in the eyes of the people here, he held more weight as champion than like a Hulk Hogan. While Hogan was great in his own right, Southern wrestling is just different than what you would see in like a New York or anywhere else in the world.
And tell us about that, why Southern wrestling you feel is different. And it is, but tell me why you think it is.
I mean, Southern wrestling, you saw more wrestling. They wanted more athletic contest. You also saw a lot more blood and gore for the most part. But it's just different, and you see a lot more Gaga too. I hate to say.
Okay, and Evan, you have any questions for Matt?
Yes, I'm a huge Ric Flair fan. I saw him monthly in Philly and other arenas for the NWA, and I get very upset when people do the cliche. Every Ric Flair match is the same. And I go, no, if you're saying that, you weren't there, because Ric Flair wrestling Ricky Steamboat, which was the greatest match I ever saw live in 50 years of attending, was not Ric Flair versus El Gigante. Ric Flair versus Barry Windham, which was one of the greatest matches I ever saw live, was not Ric Flair versus a big muscle guy like Luger or Nikita Koloff. They're totally different matches. The fact that in a 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-minute match, he used a few of the same moves, that would be any wrestler. So I think he's gotten a bad rap. I mean, his persona, outside of the ring is a totally different thing. But in the ring, in his prime, he was magnificent. He was as great as anyone.
Yeah, he was totally. I don't think it's the same match every time. I think that's an undue criticism. But he wrestled to his opponent's strengths, and that's why he was the champion for so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think he was really the wrestler's wrestler. He was the kind of guy that people that really were fans of the wrestling element of wrestling were fans of. And, of course, everybody diverged over to the Hogan side of things. when Hulk Hogan, was champion in the early '80s, and Flair was champion. There was always that dichotomy. But what's interesting, because Evan and I bring this up a lot of times on our show, is that you don't have back in the '80s, you don't have this sort of like, if you're a fan of Ric Flair, you can't be a fan of Hulk Hogan. Back in the '80s, you could be a fan of both wrestlers. And there wasn't the same thing like there is now with AEW and the WWE, and so much animosity between people who are fans of one or the other Fed. What do you think?
Well, I think you're right, but you didn't have social media back then, so it was a little different.
Yeah, the sheets, the '80s sheets, and I was a sheet editor for many years. The hardcore fans, like, they would lean towards NWA heavily. I mean, because it was just better wrestling. I would go from New York to Philly every month, and you had Flair and the Horsemen on top, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the Russians, Magnum, Nikita. I mean, it was mid-card. You had Jimmy Valiant and Superstar Billy Graham, and these guys were headliners in WWF. It was the most talent-laden promotion I'd ever seen, and some of the greatest cards I'd ever seen. So we did tend to lean towards the NWA, the hardcore, serious fans. I mean, WWF was geared more towards kids by the late '80s, early '90s. Mid '80s, during that transitional phase, when you had Piper and Snooker and Slaughter and Sheik, there was some great stuff still, but Vince kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater eventually.
Yeah, I mean, WWF, I think it definitely got away from the gore it did have. Like, I mean, I've seen Slaughter and Pat Patterson slaughtered in the Sheik in those boot camp matches from
we talked about that a lot on this show. We talk about those matches a lot on this show. So it's funny that you bring that up, because we just talked about it last week.
But I mean, it was more of a punch kick territory for so long. I mean, with Bruno and all that. And I mean, Bruno, he did a great job. I mean, but he was great for the Northeast. But actually, a good friend of mine, I don't know if y'all know him, John Hitchcock, who's very knowledgeable in pro wrestling. He talked about when Bruno came down here to Greensboro, and like they hyped him so much up in the magazines and on the TV, and then like he talked about the match. He's like, it was just like punch, kick, bear hug. That was it.
Yes, but what people don't realize is, one, he had unbelievable charisma. He walked down the aisle. There was no pyro, no entrance music. The guy just came out in a pair of black tights usually, and the building would shake. And he was beloved, and so was Pedro, and so were a lot of guys from that era. Pedro Morales, who also didn't do great in the Mid-Atlantic, but it was a different audience. The '70s WWF fans were a very blue collar mark audience. It was and we believed, and before you smartened up, these guys were like, Bruno was like a saint, like Saint Bruno to the New York fans. It's hard to explain if you weren't there, but I understand. I mean, I love Bruno, and I'll tell you right now, Harley Race and Nick Bockwinkel and a ton of other, Dory Funk, Jack Briscoe could wrestle circles around him, no doubt. But his charisma was a lot more than a Dory Funk or a Jack Briscoe.
Well,
so in a certain way, it evened out.
I would point out that it's sort of the same way with us here in San Francisco and Ray Stevens. I mean,
Ray Stevens was a total package.
Yeah, Ray Stevens could do it all.
Yeah, in the Bay Area, Ray Stevens, wrestling-wise, is the equivalent of Ric Flair.
Oh, yes.
And the point I was going to make is that it really mattered. Like, you loved who you could see. And back in the territory days, you didn't always get to see a lot of people from other feds. Like, here in the Bay Area, it was a very AWA dominated territory. And so we didn't get to see a lot of guys from the NWA so much. We didn't get to see a lot of those guys so much in the 80s, and then the WWF, would come around, but not as frequently as the AWA would. And so, we really, you loved who you could see. So I saw a lot of like Rick Martel and Jerry Blackwell and the Road Warriors. So that was more, and Bruiser Brody and so forth.
Over the years, I've interviewed thousands of wrestlers. I've been involved with this for 50 years, and the old school guys will say that prime Ray Stevens was as great as anybody, if not the greatest. When I saw him in WWF, like circa 82, he had lost a few steps, and he'd be dead within 10 years, So he wasn't quite what he was, but prime Ray Stevens, you talk to the old school guys, they always throw out the same names. They'll go Buddy Rogers and Ray Stevens. Some will say Bruno because of the business success, but not as far as in-ring ability. And a lot of them mention Harley Race because Ray.
I may say Kowalski.
Kowalski was revered, and they had a ton of respect for Ivan Koloff because that guy could do no wrong. But yeah, honestly, a lot of the old school legends say that Ray Stevens was the greatest of all time, which is interesting. Oh, and Luthez' name always comes up. Yeah.
Matt, your thoughts?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great talent out there. I mean, I know a lot of them personally. Like I knew Mr. Ivan Koloff. He actually used to be our commissioner for a bit since he lived here in North Carolina.
Did you get to work with him?
How is he not in WWE Hall of Fame? It's absurd.
I have no idea on that one. I think they got mad about the Pro Wrestling USA shows, I guess.
Well, a lot of other wrestlers that are in the WWE have done Hall of Fame have done far worse than just a few indie shows or whatever. So starting off other feds, but it's still sometimes a popularity kind of. So let's go back to well, first of all, let me ask you a little bit about your own wrestling career. So for how long did you wrestle?
Just a couple years. It was okay. I mean, they ran every week down there in Chesney, South Carolina, and it was good times. I mean, but I like it better in the position I'm at now. It's a little more stressful, but I think I make much more difference in the wrestling industry in my current position.
And so explain to everybody exactly what you do and why you feel you have specific skills that make your job where you're so good at your job.
Well, I mean, I'm the executive director of the AIWF. Like I said, it's a very large conglomerate of multiple promotions. So, I mean, basically, I constantly am dealing with multiple promotions, multiple talents, and trying to get things done. And that's a lot harder said than done, trust me. But I mean, I think we do a pretty good job at it. We're about to crown our first Universal Asian title at Pro Wrestling Heat Up out there in Tokyo coming up. We got our world champion. He defends it constant. I mean, it's defended every week. So. And plus, we're trying to get guys to work together. We're like, hey, actually, March 1st, 2nd, we have our 33rd anniversary show weekend here in North Carolina, Mount Airy, which is Mayberry, if you've ever seen the Andy Griffin show.
Yeah.
That's where our actual headquarters is. But we're having our 33rd anniversary show, and we got guys coming in from Canada. We got guys coming in from Africa. We got guys coming in from Mexico. We got guys coming from across the country. And they're going to give the fans a heck of a show, but a lot of point is to flesh out what we're going to do for the rest of the following year, for the rest of 2025 and then 2026. And we have over 40 promotions from our alliance coming into town for those 2-3 days.
Now, how did the AIWF actually get started?
It got started in 92 by my partner, Mr. Dean Puckett. He started as just a small promotion, and then he turned into a regional promotion as he started running Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, as well as North Carolina. And then he was on the Louis Theroux show. I don't know if y'all are familiar with Mr. Louis Theroux from the BBC. And that's how we changed it to our current model, because a promotion in England saw it and wanted to be involved. And it's just grown from, a few promotions to, like I said, over 150 now.
Okay, and then so can you tell us some of the biggest matches that AIWF has had, and some of the bigger stars that have wrestled for AIWF?
I mean, it's literally like a who's who. I mean, if you're watching like WWE TV today, Andre Chase, he started in the AIWF. If you look at AEW, Hangman Adam Page, he started in the AIWF when he was 19 years old up in Virginia and North Carolina.
Okay,
but, I mean, we've had the legends like Buddy Landell, Ricky Morton. Both those guys are in our Hall of Fame. Wahoo McDaniel. We've had, like I said, Ivan Koloff used to be our commissioner, and he's wrestled several times. Like I said, it's probably a who's who. We've had about anybody you can think of. Cedric Alexander started with us. George Sal trained him, but he started his early career with us as well.
Yes, and so are you guys on like any kind of a TV schedule, or do you have any kind of?
We actually just started our inaugural television show. It's called AIWF Across the Globe. You can catch it on YouTube right now, but starting in March, it's going to be on the One Network. That they're up in New York City, and they have another station in Chicago, and we also on Pack TV. It's online. It's on Fire Stick, Android, all that, and I got a couple more deals in the work.
Well, I do have to ask. It's a self-fulfilling question. What feds do you work with in Northern California?
Nobody really in Northern California much anymore. Mostly in SoCal, like in Orange County. Nobody really in NorCal at the moment. I hate to say. But,
well, I might be able to hook you up with some feds out here in NorCal,
awesome.
Putting together some good product.
We do have a SoCal champion, and Mr. Slice Boogie. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
No, what fed is he with?
Slice Boogie, he was with Dave Marquez for a long time. Those guys.
Okay, I do know Dave Marquez. Yes.
Yeah, and he's been in MLW and all that, and but he's a pretty big deal in SoCal.
Well, that's good because that's NorCal deserves to be represented as well.
I guess if you consider NorCal, we do work with Supreme Pro Wrestling. They're up in Elks Grove and up in Sacramento.
Look right over there. SPW. Yeah. I've actually performed for them years and years and years and years and years ago. But
Sir Samurai's former AIWF America's champion up there.
Yeah, Samurai's been on our show many years ago. He was one of our first guests actually that we had.
He's lost a lot of weight recently. He just had a cruiserweight title match about a month and a half ago out in Tennessee. And,
I remember him writing about that on Facebook. So
he worked Pee Wee Pitts, who was the champion at the time. Currently the champion, Delta Jr. He actually worked in California, but I believe he's more in Los Angeles kind of based because he works for like Pro Wrestling Revolution and such.
Yes. Now I know Evan won't definitely, he's like enough samurai stuff, but I just have to say I have a funny samurai story, which is that I won tickets to go see the WWE at what was Arco Arena in Sacramento, and I'd done a lot of stuff with SPW and I performed for them and all that stuff, and I was going to the bathroom. And I go to the bathroom stall, and at the urinal next to me is Samurai. So, but of all the people to run into, and in all the places to run into Samurai, I was not expecting to run into him there. But anyway, Evan,
I've got a beautiful WWF bathroom story for you guys. So I'm at the urinal. And all of a sudden, the guy next to me, he had sunglasses on. So he's doing what he has to do at the urinal, and all of a sudden, his sunglasses start to fall, and they fall right into the urinal where thousands of people have gone that night. And without hesitation, this is a true story, without hesitation, he sticks his hand in the urinal, takes out the glasses, wipes it on his shirt, puts it back on, and goes about his merry way. I'll never forget that. So,
no, that's when you.
That's a wrestling thing. You couldn't.
That's when you get a new pair of glasses. But
you couldn't make that up.
Anyway. So yeah, so it's great to know that you you and I have got some. I'm sure there's a lot of wrestlers from NorCal that have not made their way out into your territory and have worked with you. So tell me a little bit about some of the I've had to like run. I ran one show for California Championship Wrestling, and it was one of the most difficult days of my life. How do you guys manage to coordinate so many shows and so many feds and so many different stories all at once?
Well, I mean, we have local promoters in all the area. We don't run their shows for them. They run their shows. They do as they please for the most part. I just, I've talked to them about, hey, you booking the champion this date, blah, blah, blah. And they just have to get parameters with them and check in with them. But, yeah, I hate running shows. I'm not going to lie. It sucks. It's not fun. But, I mean, I run about 4 shows a year myself right now personally. Mainly I run our anniversary weekend, which is a 2-day show, which is going to be a 3-day show this year for some reason because our president from Canada, Mr. Drew Onyx, is coming to town early. So we're doing like kind of a private event that Friday. And but then we also have a cruiserweight tournament called the Crazy 8 tournament, and we've had like guys like Cedric Alexander, Jimmy Rave, Lee Moriarty, who's on AEW. Just a ton of guys over the years have been in it, and we've ran it for about 15 years now. So that's the shows I run, and it's not fun, but you just get through and you make the best, and hopefully you make money at the end of the day. Some days you do, some days you don't.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, obviously a lot of people want to promote shows and put together stuff like this, but it's always a matter of money. What do you think the difference is in how you're able to run shows and make money versus maybe how some other feds run or some other associations run and don't make money? You're sort of on the outside looking in on these feds. So what are the things that you see that successful feds do that other feds don't?
I mean, I know guys making 6 figures a year at this. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I like promoting wrestling, but
I know people who spent 6 figures a year.
No, I know them that are making 6 figures.
I know people who have lost 6 figures and more.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. But most of them, they're diversified. They have a training program. Training programs usually are a big moneymaker. You definitely have to ingrain in your local community. If your community doesn't know about it and doesn't support you, you're screwed from the get-go. And so you have to do that. You have to be consistent. Like the fans, you have to train the fans, basically. Just like what Vince McMahon's done, what everybody else has done. They have to know, hey, a show's going to be on this date, and it's going to be at this location. And that's what the fans want to know. And I think that's how you continue to have good crowds that are money-making. And like I said, sponsors, you got to be ingrained in your community. You have to get them to support you, but you have to show them the value. If you're not showing them the value, you're not going to get anywhere with them. So.
And how do you show value? What do you think?
Mean, I like to invite them to shows ahead of time beforehand, and I like to truly give them the VIP experience. And I think I've been able to do that. And I have some great sponsors. And you have to build a team. If you don't have a team, you're also in trouble. And, it's just like managing any business. You have to cultivate talent and build a team.
See, I think in the South, promoting wrestling, you get a lot different reaction than when you try to promote it here in Northern California. There's a lot of people who will turn their nose up and say, oh, that's, barbaric, and it's disgusting, and it's violent, and it's just a stupid fake show and all that other stuff. Whereas I think in the South, culturally, I think when people mention wrestling, people think of good times and hanging out with your friends and having the whole party atmosphere that goes along with. What I'm thinking about is, did you see the show Heels by any chance?
Yeah. I watched all 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think of like that as being very typical of like, the kind of atmosphere you'd have in the South, where, the whole community is involved in the wrestling fed.
Well, I mean, I think culturally in the South, people are friendlier to each other. I mean, I've been around the world, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of New York City. I'm not a big fan of the Northeast or
New York, so nice they named it twice.
I mean, yeah, I've been to Madison Square Garden many times, mostly for basketball games. But and I don't enjoy big cities. I mean, I think that's the big thing here. We have small, like, okay, I'm in Greensboro. Greensboro's 300,000 people, a little over 300,000. It's the 49th largest city in the United States. But I mean, we're over 100 square miles. So I mean, we're not on top of each other. So I mean, I think that makes people more friendly in general.
New York, let me defend it because I've lived here my whole life. Things are very hectic. The rents are an average of $2,900 a month in Queens, New York, where I live. So people are working 2 or 3 jobs, while supporting their family and whatever other responsibilities. So it's kind of like people are, busy and hectic, and so it may not be as laid back and, quote unquote friendly, but there's a lot of good people here, like anywhere else. It's just it's a different vibe, and Manhattan is an island. It's Manhattan Island, so you're really on top of each other. And
yeah, y'all got that new tariff in Manhattan.
Yeah. To drive in Manhattan, you have to pay like $9 now. But yeah, I mean, New York. My father was a taxi driver, yellow taxi driver, 27 years, and he said, "quote New York has the best and worst of everything," and that pretty much sums it up. It's if it's the cultural capital of the world, the jazz capital of the world, the theater capital of the world, New York and London, anyway. The business capital.
A lot of blue collar folks too.
Oh yeah.
So that's probably what hurts San Francisco more, is that we have kind of a combination of both of your situations, which is we have high rent, but we're also pretty spread out. We're not all packed together in one spot. So it's it's hard to gather sometimes the big crowds for wrestling as we would get in, you get down in the South and sometimes in New York City.
But I mean, I've also seen large crowds overseas, like my partner in Seoul, South Korea. I mean, they draw regularly like 1,500 people. But like I told my partner Hong over there, I'm like, hey, dude, you got 9.5 million people there. I mean, it's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a lot more competitive.
My wife is from Seoul, Korea. So next time I'm there, maybe you could connect me with the promotion there.
Yeah, they do a great job out there.
I could give him some publicity. My brother-in-law is a Korean movie star, Kim Hong Pak.
Wow.
And apparently he looks like Brock Lesnar, according to.
No, that's a different Korean actor.
Different Korean actor. So tell me about, like, can you in your mind think of like one of your best events that you've helped like put together with AIWF, and what was the card like?
I mean, I think our anniversary events are always the best because we're bringing in talent from across the globe to these events. Like I said, we've had, and then our fan base likes violence. I'm just going to admit it. So, I mean, you got to look like a dog.
Yeah, it's better than the 25-minute promos that you have going on.
So they want me to book like a dog collar match, a steel cage match, some kind of street fight. They want to see that, but you got to be like Barnum and Bailey. You got to give them the circus. You got to give them the high wire act. You got to give them the women. You got to get the midgets. You got to get everything. Because we actually work with Midget Warriors of Wrestling. They're based out of New York, but out of Syracuse. But they tour the country and tour Canada. And so you got to get that. You just got to give them a little bit of different thing. But you have to just go out and talk to the people and be like, hey, you just got to throw them some tickets. I mean, I don't mind throwing some tickets. A lot of people don't like giving away free tickets, but you throw them out and you say, hey, come see us, and they'll come back next time and spend their money, and it might give you sponsorship money. And hey, even if they're not paying for the ticket, they're paying for food. They're buying merchandise. I mean, you just got to do that. And our shows are cheap. I try to keep it affordable. Like, we have floor seats $10. We have bleachers $5. Because we run in an old rodeo arena up there. It's a fairground, but it's the rodeo arena, livestock arena, whatever you would like to call it.
Wow. Yeah, you know, as I said, venue is always maybe the most important thing. You get the venue first, and you know everything else can fall into place.
Do you have any $1,011 seats like the last WWE house show at Madison Square Garden?
No, we do, like I
Yes.
said, we're doing $10 and $5. I mean,
Oh.
but I mean, I've seen people in bigger markets, I understand, but I wouldn't go that far. I've seen like, 20, 25, and I think that's fair for the bigger markets like Chicago, New York,
I
LA.
was just at an indie show out in Long Island, NYWC, and tickets were 25 to 40, and it was packed. So, it depends, but you can't start asking. Madison Square Garden for WWE in December was 63 to 1,011, and it was half empty. So it's starting to show you can only get so greedy.
And you know that's where I think indie feds have an advantage over the WWE is that they can price things so low, and still make a profit, and families can go see a show and not necessarily have to spend $1,000 or $2,000 to go see it. I mean,
my friend took 3 people to AEW, and that was a quick 500 and change. The tickets were $100 each plus parking and food, and that's without even buying merch. It was 500 and change the guy spent in one night. So you take your wife and 2 kids, you're looking at expensive evening with big time wrestling. When I say big time, WWE, AEW, whatever.
Then you might only get to see maybe an hour of actual action for 3 hours of sitting around, 4 hours of sitting around waiting for stuff to happen.
A couple of years ago, somebody threw me a comp for Raw. I'm sitting at the Garden, and Gallows and Anderson comes out with Elias, and they all sing, and Gallows and Anderson doesn't wrestle. One of the greatest tag teams in the world. They came out and sang, and that's the last we saw of them that night. I go, I'm going to shoot myself. This isn't for me. It's not for me.
And I mean, I think you have to give them a reasonable amount of time to. I mean, you can get a show done in 2 hours, 2 hours, and a little bit of change with intermission. I think that's your goal. And I mean, you just have to have a good time. Make sure you got good food. I mean, a lot of times you can get venues, and they give you if you can meet a bar tab, they'll give you the venue for free. But it just depends. You have to just negotiate what you're doing.
Well,
I've been to indies where it ran 5 hours. They had 18 matches, and it was like an endurance contest. And
yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Matthew. Is what? How do you keep from being overbooked? And the tendency for indie feds to want to put everybody on the card that they know. How do you resist that and keep the show down to a manageable minimum?
Well, I mean that's why we have 2 days coming up in March, because we usually when we had it one day we'd have like 16 matches and it'd be just too much. But we thankfully have a lease on our building, so I mean it's our building. So, and I think the people that have their own buildings, they have more viability to do that. Like if you have a big show, you can split up into 2 shows that weekend. But you just gotta time management the proper you can, and just if you're running, I know a lot of guys are running every week. You just have to run your storylines and like keep it to that. Don't have anything extra.
Yeah, everything extra obviously is tough because people all want to be part of the show. And I mean, how do you deliver the news to somebody that hey, you're not booked on this show, even though you want to be booked on this show? How do you tell them the bad news?
I mean, I think you just have to be blunt but honest, but don't be a jerk about it. Just be like, hey, I can't use this show. Maybe I can use you on this following show. And I mean, just explain the situation. I mean, most guys will be cool 8 out of 10 times.
AEW, when I go to their pay-per-views, it's 5 hours. It's literally 5 hours, and the main event better be great because you're shot by the end of that 5 hours as a fan, just sitting there and the noise level, and plus it's just late already. You're talking like midnight. So yeah, it's sometimes less is more. Less is.
Yeah. But also, I'll say with AEW, when they ran in Greensboro with Sting, they sold the whole building out. That's like 22,000 seats.
Yeah.
Other times they came, they had to block it off to half capacity. And I mean, they did a respectable, 8,000. But I mean, it's just, it's what, and they also, when they came here, ticket prices were like $20. I mean,
Yeah. In New York, it's a lot higher. In New York, they were getting $500 ringside, and next year $595 ringside. Not everybody can hit. Not everybody can hit.
I got right behind ringside for like $22, I believe, when they were here. Not the Sting show. Sting show, yeah, I was in cheap seats and it was like about 50. But yeah, they sold it. They sold it out with Sting here at the Coliseum.
It's great. It's great.
It's just tough when you want to get a lot of people booked on the show, but then that is going to really kick up the expense level, and then you got to try to recover that. And I gotta say the one thing that one promoter who's no longer around here, he died a couple of years ago, but his name's Kirk White, and he said the one thing is that he said one of the secrets to my success is that before one ticket is even sold, I've already got the show paid for in sponsorships and endorsements.
Yeah, of course. You want sponsorships, and you have to set a budget and keep to that budget. I know Mr. Kirk White, big time wrestling, good guy. Hate that he passed. But yeah, you just have to, you have to set your limitations, and if you can do it that way, if you can be paid before you even get in the door, and it's just profit, you're great. But that's hard to do.
Yeah, he was one of the guys that was able to do that by getting guys signed up for card shows and autograph signings and so forth. Deals with other restaurants and venues that would pay for everything ahead of time.
And I mean too, if you're just honest with the talent, you let them know what's up. I mean, I've had a lot of guys wrestle for me for a song and a dance basically. And they've charged a lot of other promoters way more money than that. But the boys, they're just going to try to get as much money as they can, and they know who they can get it from, who they can't at the end of the day.
Right. And I guess when you are bringing talent from outside, you want to make sure you have the money for them. That's always going to be, the fly-in talent and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, of course. You try to get them flown in. You try to get them a room, all that. But if you can, you have them stay with somebody. We've had that happen multiple occasions. And I mean, I've went places and guys, they're just like, hey, you want to come stay with me for a couple of days? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll come visit.
Okay, that's really good. So tell me, what do you think is like where you want to see AIWF in the future? How do you foresee the future of AIWF?
I mean, I think we're only going to continue to grow. I mean, we've grew at a pretty good pace, I would say. And I mean, we have over 22,000 followers on our Facebook, AIWF Wrestling, if you want to check it out, fans. Like I said, we just started this television show. Like I got on like 2 networks so far, and I mean, I just see that expanding. And we're just trying to keep going forward. I mean, I think you just gotta keep pushing forward and don't worry about going backwards.
Okay, and I was also thinking about asking if you could book a dream match, one dream match, any 2 wrestlers in history, living, dead, it doesn't matter. Who would you book as your main event?
I mean, I want to see Buddy Rogers and Ric Flair in their primes versus each other.
That would be a hell of a match.
I'd like to see Sky Lolo against Andre the Giant. Ooh. And I'd also like to see Abdullah the Butcher and the Necro Butcher against Vince and Stephanie McMahon. And I'd like to see the Continental Nobleman Joe Turco defeat Roman Reigns and become, the bigwig of the
Universal Champion, the Universal Heavyweight Champion.
I think those would be my 3 dream matches.
Joe Turco. Yes, you have to work him into any show.
I love that guy.
You can get. No, that would be a hell of a match. And is there? Do you have any like for the anniversary show? Can you reveal any of the matches that you are gonna book for that?
Yeah, I can. Our main event for March 1st is going to be a Monsters Ball match between Mustang Mike, between the Minotaur, and the son of Abdullah, who's Abdul Butcher's son. And they're fighting for the number one contendership
now
for
I
the
gotta
world
pause
title.
for a second. Some lady had sex with Abdullah the Butcher. That in itself that just gives me pause, and it just says that there's somebody for everybody. I guess if someone can have sex, could not have felt his forehead when she was doing that, because that has to be the biggest. If that's a turn on, then this world is sicker than I imagine. So,
But yeah, you can look up the son of Abdullah Aman. He's a wrestler. He's been around quite a while. Yeah, they're
what
gonna
is the
beat the heck out of
Monsters
each
Ball
other.
match? What does that actually entail?
I mean, there's going to be locked up 24 hours beforehand, and we're going to let them out, and we're going to let them destroy each other.
Wow, well, that sounds like a good plan. And then what else is on? Who else is on the card?
We have Paulo Tarasi. He's Italian Canadian. Well, he lives in Canada, but he's Italian by birth. But he's got 2 belts right now. He's got the Torture Chamber Pro Commonwealth Cruiserweight belt, which is the cruiserweight belt up in Montreal. He's going to put that on the line in an open challenge, but he also has the AIWF International Championship, and he's going to put that on the line as well.
Okay, and so is there an actual AIWF champion right now?
Yeah, the current champion is Golden Boy Greg Anthony. He's in his second reign.
Okay, and did he wrestle for a title, or did you just I don't know how that all worked in AIWF.
Yeah, he has a title belt that he won. He won it against Ty Tyson first in Dyersburg, Tennessee, and then he lost it down in Hazel Green, Alabama, near Huntsville.
That's from singing.
Hold on. I got my son here is distracting me, and my 7-year-old.
Okay, is he a fan too?
He likes it okay, I guess, but he likes attention.
Who's his favorite wrestler? Have him that you can.
Landon, who's your favorite wrestler?
I don't know much.
He said he don't know much. He don't want to answer right now.
Okay, that's fine. We love families and pets and everybody that can interact with you. But so I know you're running out of time a little bit, and so you don't want to take away from your family and everything like that. But we do.
Paulo Tarasi, he's going to defend the international title against Buddy Flowers in the opening match. So he's actually going to wrestle twice, and that's his thing. Paulo Tarasi, he's a 5'3", 150-pound man, but he's tougher than he looks, and he's been very successful throughout Canada. He's about to tour Ireland. He's defended the belt in Spain, in Italy, in Canada. So yeah, we're looking forward to having them. We have our $10,000 Battle Royale, which I don't even know who's going to be in that, but our Battle Royals have been up to like 60 to 70 people before.
Oh my gosh. It was like 2 rings or something, or you fit?
We got a good reinforced ring. We got a 20-foot ring.
Any specialty matches like cage matches, or like you said,
we're not setting the cage up. The Monster Ball is going to be our blood and violence this year. And like I said, they're going to fight. Whoever wins the match, they're going to be, getting a world title shot. And potentially, if Mustang Mike's beat Golden Boy Greg Anthony come February 17th in Morgan City, Louisiana, he might be the champion. He might be putting the title on the line versus these 2 monsters.
So tell me the thing that you feel you like the most about doing what you do as an executive director.
If you read Howard Brody's book, it's the interaction. Like that's what I prefer. I like the interaction. I like helping people, and I think if I stopped, that's what I would miss more than the actual wrestling.
Interesting. And then what's the thing that you think is the biggest hassle?
It's very time consuming.
Well, obviously, yes, to coordinate all that stuff. Evan, you have any other questions?
I have a comment. I saw the AIWF TV show the other night, and I enjoyed it, and I recommend it. And I think it's a great opportunity to see some talent you may have never seen before. It's a great way to show guys from different promotions, different areas, different countries even. And I think it has a lot of potential. And before we sign off, Matt should plug it again.
Yeah, it's AIWF across the globe. Just you put that on YouTube. It's on the Gorilla Press Productions page right now, who's our production company based out of upstate New York. But yeah,
it's a great idea. It's a great idea. You have this forum where you could take as many different talents over the weeks and months and years and showcase them for a worldwide audience without having the huge expense of shooting your own TV. I think it's great.
So, I mean, what are you looking forward to after the anniversary show? Like for the rest of 2025, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, as soon as that's over, we start planning the AIWF Crazy 8 tournament, which is our annual cruiserweight tournament. We're booking title bouts across the globe, and I mean that's been time consuming but necessary. I mean, the champion he's got to go somewhere every week, and we got so many champions. We got an international champion, an America's champion, a nationals champion. We got a women's champion. Women's championship is about to be in Arkansas coming up in 2 weeks.
Who's your ladies champion?
Clara Carter right now.
Okay, that's great.
She was trained by the JPWA, Tom Pritchard.
Oh yeah, okay, wonderful.
I once saw Lawler and Jarrett against the Moondogs at a dog track in Arkansas. That was great. Yes, seriously, 1992.
Did the Moondogs meet any of their relatives at the track? No. And so what would you like to, fans to really know about the AIWF? What is the thing that you think is most important that sets you guys apart from everybody else?
I mean, I think we're just a mom and pop organization. We're a small business that you're supporting. We're not fancy like New York. We're not billionaires like Mr. Khan. And I mean, we're just trying to have a good time, have some good solid wrestling, some good entertainment. And just if you see it on a poster, come on out. Check it out online. Check it out on YouTube, social media, etc.
That's great. And why don't you give everyone the info again, how they can get a hold of the AIWF?
Yeah, just look us up, AIWF Wrestling on Facebook, on X, which is formerly Twitter, AIWF Wrestling on Instagram. We're on all the social medias. We'll usually answer your questions back within a day or two max.
And Evan, any other questions that you might have?
I just want to say I think it's a tremendous idea, to have an organization like this. I think it's needed. I think, get everybody on the same team and cross promote. I think I come from an era where some of the idiot indie promoters would tear down each other's signs and call in emergencies to the police and fire department and
or the
sabotage.
Sports commissioner. We used to have that was always the athletic commission.
Yeah, so to have an organization where they're helping each other and cross promoting, and you have a series where you can showcase new talent, young talent, whatever the case may be. I think it's great. I think it's something that's missing in indie wrestling. People helping each other as opposed to he overstepped. He's in my territory now. Like they own this little section of wherever, and no, it's and it's tough. It's tough. I mean, I've seen so many indies struggle. It's great that Matt and everybody's trying to help each other.
I do think that a growth again of the regional federations, especially post-COVID. I think it was tough for the indies to compete during the COVID time, especially because you couldn't have crowds together and the lockdowns and so forth really kept everything under wraps for a couple of years. That's when this show actually started, was during COVID, because Evan was trapped in his building in New York City, and I was trapped in my house in Nevada, California, and we were all getting totally stir crazy, and we're just like, we got to do so. Maybe we'd always talked about doing a show together, and I was like, well, okay, maybe it's the end of the world happening. We'll actually get the show going, and that's kept us going for the last 5 years. But I think now that COVID is gone, it's not a thing, and people are really wanting to go see shows, and when they want to go back to a live show, and they see what the WWE is charging, or even AEW is charging, that indie feds provide them with a way to get out and go see something live without having to spend a fortune. And so
WrestleMania has $10,000 tickets, and Matt has $10 tickets. I'm going to go with the $10 ticket every time.
Yeah.
$10, and you're on the floor seats. You're right in the action. We only have 4 rows on each side. So,
and let me say this. Let me say this for the guys who only go to WWE or AEW. My oldest friend, his nephew, we happen to have the same birthday. I'm like an uncle to this kid. We took him and his friends for many, many years to ROH and Indies. We didn't take them to WWE. These kids loved Indies. And when we went to ROH, they met the future WWE stars. There's Kevin Steen, there's Tyler Black, who's now Seth Rollins, etc., so on. So it was like the best of both worlds. You go to an indie like the AIWF family of promotions, and you're meeting the wrestlers, you're taking pictures, you're up close and personal. It's a whole different experience than sitting in a nosebleed seat at Madison Square Garden for $63. It's a whole different experience.
I agree. Well, Matt, it was really nice to meet you. I really appreciate you being on the show today, and really look forward to having you on the show in the future too. When you have your next big promotion going on, maybe you can help promote your Super 8 or some of your other upcoming big events that you're having this year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'd definitely love to return, and like I said, I'll send you some guests as well. From our champions to a lot of talent
we'd love to have
the country and the world. So,
and Matt, I don't know if you're aware, but Russell is AKA Buddy Sotelo, noted heel manager. Any of your promotions need.
It's true. It's probably my career, kind of a different trajectory than yours, but still, I'd love to hook you up with some feds out here that would probably be interested in being
I know we definitely want to expand NorCal. We haven't really done great. Like, it's mostly settled around Southern California for the most part for some reason. But because we got SoCal champions and cruiserweight champion Alec Thomas, Slice Boogie's the SoCal heavyweight champion, and we're doing good.
Slice Boogie is the greatest name ever for a wrestler. It's a great name.
It's definitely there. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you get on with your Sunday, everyone. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you all next week. Good night, everybody.